in-house production.
Welcome to Giving Away Game, y'all. I'm your host, Carl. As you can see, my co-host, Pierre, he's not here today. He got like 6 jobs. He a workaholic, and he couldn't make it. But just to keep pumping out content in the meantime and in between time, what we're going to do is we're going to start a new segment that I'm going to call Giving Away Game, the interviews. And what that's about is I'll basically be interviewing people, all kinds of people, couples and fathers and anybody who can give us some good content, y'all. As long as they honest, we'll bring them on the show. So today I'll actually be doing 2 interviews. I'll be interviewing a relatively young couple who just got engaged. We're going to talk to them about relationships and what it takes to get to the point in a relationship where you become engaged and eventually get married. And then I'll be talking to some twins, my uncles actually. We're going to be talking to them about what it was like growing up without a father. So some good content, y'all. I really hope y'all enjoy them. If you don't, let me know. If you do, let me know. And we'll keep these interviews coming. So don't forget to go to theloudseffect.com, theloudseffect.com. Get your Super Dad merch. If you're a Super Dad, go check them out, y'all. Get that Super Dad merch. It's dope. Plus, show everybody that you're a Super Dad. We're trying to end that stigma of bad black fathers. So we're trying to get that out of here, y'all. But without further ado, let's get into these interviews. All right, y'all. Welcome to Giving Away Game, the interviews. So today we go piggyback off of the last episode of Giving Away Game, which was about fatherhood. So today I'm interviewing my 2 uncles, Ronald and Donald. As you can see, they're twins. And we go talk about how it was for them growing up basically without a father. All right? So we're going to hop right into it. So question 1 for y'all is, how was it? Meaning, how was it growing up without a father or without a dad in y'all home? Well, Uncle Ronald, you go first.
It's hard to speak on it actually, because as a kid, I honestly didn't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like there wasn't a sense of, where's my dad or anything like that. And I think it was primarily because we had older brothers to look after us, and those were our father figures at the time. And for me, that's who I looked up to. I looked up to my older brothers. And they were, my brother Victor was there for us a lot, you know what I'm saying? Whether it was sports or anything like that. So as a kid, I really didn't think about it much. And we actually met our father like twice. And even after that, there was no desire to like get to know him or go see him or anything like that. So it really wasn't. And now we can discuss later on like how I look back on it and think of how it affected. But when I was a kid, I really honestly didn't think much of it.
All right, I'll go down.
Yeah, pretty much the same. Like from my perspective, I didn't think about it. Like he said, like as a kid, we had our older brothers around, and that was it. We had. And not only that, we didn't see any of their fathers around.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So we didn't even see somebody being a father to them.
Right.
And maybe that would have changed how we thought about it, but we didn't. They were the adult males in our life, and that was it for us.
Okay, so there was no like, because y'all the youngest of 9 kids, right?
Right.
All right, so there was no desire or at no time y'all never like sat back and thought like where my daddy at or
not once. We had never asked about him ever. So we had to tell the story of when we met him, right? So I asked my mom and Ronnie what they remember about this day. So roughly we were about 12 years old, and we were living in a 3-room apartment. Back then it was kitchen, middle room, and front room. That's what we call it.
3-room walkthrough.
Yeah, right. Okay. That's what you say today. But so somebody knocked at the door. I go open the door. I look and I see this big dude standing there. And my first thought that came in my head was, wow, this dude looks like Ronnie.
Your twin.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Okay.
So I'm like, he said, is T here? Because that's what they call my mom. I was like, Mama, somebody at the door. So Ronnie's in the kitchen, my mom's in the front. So when she comes, I go to the kitchen and tell Ronnie, like, it's some man at the door, right? So a few seconds or a minute later, my mom called us in.
Nah, that's probably longer than that because they had.
Yeah, okay.
They were in there conversating and whatever, and we were in there. We might have been playing a game or
Yeah, we were doing something in the kitchen. And so then my mom called us in, and she was like, "Y'all know who this is?" And he was like, "No." The whole time, I don't know what he was thinking, but the whole time I'm just looking at him, going, "Dang, he looks like Ronnie." You know. So
not thinking that he looked like you because y'all look alike.
But that's the thing, and I'll tell that story in a second to piggyback just quickly off of that. So that's my mindset, you know. So we like no. So she said, "This y'all daddy?" He was like, "Oh hey, right." So he asked us some questions.
I don't remember nothing. Like I don't remember how. I remember that up to that point where mom's like, "This is your daddy, right?" I draw a blank with how he looked, and I draw a blank with anything after that. Like I remember standing next to him because he was like seeing how tall we were and see what kind of pants, because he was going to buy us some clothes or something like that. I remember that, but anything else, I honestly don't remember. I don't recall anything after that.
So you don't even recall like what you thought when you first seen him?
Nope. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So for me, I do remember him standing next to him and then the next time he came, I remember he came with the clothes. He brought us some pants.
Yep, I remember that. I opened, because I'm the one who opened the door then, and he was standing there with a bag of clothes. And he came in, we went in there, and we was like, tried them all, you know, and stuff like that.
So what do you remember about the clothes? It was,
I remember this one shirt was pretty fly.
Pretty fly.
This one shirt was like, man, like, so we took turns. It wasn't like he bought it in pairs or anything. Like, oh, they ain't twins, so I got to buy two. Just bought some stuff, and we just traded off wearing them and stuff.
Yeah. All right. The pants was too big. My mama remember that he bought us some socks. Ronnie don't remember the socks. I kind of remember he did. Because back then, we wore, you know, it was a luxury to have white socks. Because back then, they used to sell, which would probably be popular right now, the Adidas looking socks with the 3 stripes on it. You know, so we kind of hated those because like it was always different colors.
Right.
So to piggyback on, because I told this story before, and people always trip off the fact that I say he looked like Ronnie.
Right.
So just so y'all know, up until we were in our 20s, we always thought we were identical twins.
28.
Right. So
well, it was before. Before you.
Yeah. Before that, I actually started thinking like that we weren't identical, right? So just so happened, one of our nieces, we were in the car, and she said that
she asked us were we identical, and almost simultaneously we was thinking that's a stupid question, and he said, we're not. I said we were, and when he said that, we kind of looked at each other like, I'm thinking, so what are you talking about?
Yeah. So he looked at me like I had 2 heads, and he just,
I kind of did it too, yeah.
So it was hilarious. So like, it was probably about 4 years after that. 3-4 years. It was a long time, right after that, right?
It was a while after that.
A while after that.
Probably not that long, but yeah.
Now both of us were in the military. He was Army, and I was Army Reserve. So one day I'm at his house and I find his dog tags, right? So I look on his dog tags and see his blood type. So I'm like, you B positive, and I'm O positive.
Wow.
So I said, dude, we got different blood types. He's like, yeah. So I get my dog tags and I'm like, yeah, I'm O positive.
That's so it was like.
So that's when he was like, oh, he was right.
Yeah. So what made you send it in the first place though? Like when?
Because to us, we never looked exactly alike.
I was a little tall because my face was slim. His face was full.
Yes. So that actually made him a little bit taller than me all the time because his head was like more narrow. So so when that happened, I was thinking, see, I told you, you know.
Oh, well, you're asking, so he's surprised you don't remember the story. He said he actually saw some identical twins.
Oh, that's what it was, yeah.
He saw some identical twins. He was like, okay, they look exactly alike.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And me and Ronnie don't look exactly alike. So that's when he determined. I think, were you in Florida? I think had you moved down to Florida with Michelle when that happened?
Yeah. Okay.
Because I think you was back for Auntie funeral when.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was like, and if I probably now looking back on it, I probably should have knew better because the Olsen twins. The Olsen twins are fraternal.
Wow.
And when and when I heard that, I was thinking, there's no way they could be fraternal. They look exactly alike.
I would have never known. This is my first time ever hearing it.
When I heard that, I'm thinking, no way. So thinking back on it, it's like, well, when he said that, I thought it was impossible at that time because there's actually a picture that of when we were probably, I don't know, we was young, probably 10, 11, 12 years old, whatever.
Yeah.
That we honestly can't tell which one.
But it's like an individual picture. It's not we're together.
Okay.
Like if you like on our.
So it's a picture of one of y'all.
Yeah.
But y'all just don't know which one it is.
We really don't know which one of us
looking
it is.
at it going. We could not figure out.
Because little bruh, I'm gonna have to find that picture too. It's little bruh, Beefy, and Tim. I forgot who else on the picture, but we sit down, we look at that picture, and we go,
wow.
And we've looked at, and see, this is so. Let's get into why I was like thought it was ridiculous that he would say that. So back in high school, we went to it was like a homecoming dance or something that we had dressed up and went to, right? So we took pictures together, and then I took pictures by myself. So I got the pictures back. When we got the pictures back, I remember showing him, and I remember looking at the picture of me, and I looked at him and go,
I remember that.
And I went, when did you take a picture of yourself?
When did you take a picture by
You take a picture by
yourself?
yourself. And I was like, he was like, that's you, dummy. And like, oh shit. So, you know what I'm saying? So that's why you build up to that point where he's like, oh, we're not identical. It's like, dude, you gotta be tripping so.
Okay. All right. That's an interesting story. So let's go on to our next question though. So our next question is, how did having a lack of a father figure in y'all life like affect y'all? Because you're a father, right?
Yes.
All right. How many kids you got?
1.
Okay, so you got one son. How old is he?
14 now.
14. He's 14 now. So growing up, you know, having a child, how did that affect you, like being a dad? Or do you think it's had any effect on you as far as being a dad?
It does. Like when I think back on it, like we said, we honestly never tripped off of it. Like after we met our father, it wasn't until I was a full adult that I thought back to myself, wow, even after meeting him, you know, we didn't. Why didn't we? Yeah, we had no desire to be like keeping his.
Is Daddy coming back over or something? You know?
No, we never. We literally never asked about him again until we were adults. And I remember my mom going, she saw him at a bar one day or some hangout or something like that. And even then, it didn't dawn on me to say, I'm an adult. I can go. Nothing.
Okay.
So when I look back on it and think of how it would have helped me, is in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I played basketball,
Mm-hmm.
and just not to have any support from either parent while I'm like playing basketball kept me in school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
Doing well in school.
Yeah, like it kept me. You know, I had to keep my grades up or balanced at least.
Right.
In order to play basketball. I never missed a semester. I played basketball from 8th grade all the way to the senior year of high school. And when I think back on it, it's like, wow. I wonder how it would have affected me having a parent there to support me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's different. And a lot of people would know this. It's different when you have your daddy or your mama there watching you.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
After the game, telling you how good you did, or
right. So Ronnie came to the games, but I swear to you, I never recall having a conversation about him saying, "Dude, what was you doing in this situation?" Or "Dude, you played good today," or you know what I'm saying? And all of our older brothers, one had passed on, and the others were all in the military, so they weren't at home. You know what I'm saying? To come and support me, which I know if my brother, my oldest brother, if he was there, it'd have been a totally different story for him to come in. So that affected me later on. I never thought about it then, but when I think back on it, because I was a halfway decent basketball player. I was like to say I was average at least, and so having a kid, the one thing I always thought to myself was, I'm always going to be around. That was my first thought. So not even to get into the whole story of how it happened, but he lived out of town when his mom had him. She told me once I found out he was mine, from the first month that I found out, I was up out of town going to see him. You know, I took him.
Shoot, like the next
month. No, I found out in March. Remember, because I had this. It was hilarious, right?
Yeah, it was funny.
So he had the DNA test done, right? I had to go take it. So we got the results. So I called him over. My sister, my brother, my mom was there. So I started reading it, and it was like, you're 99%, whatever.
Yeah, it just kind of reads kind of weird. Yeah, anybody that just had that letter, you know how it reads. Right. It just reads kind of weird. So I remember him calling me. I never forget it. He called me. I was coming from South County, and I'm driving. He's like, "Oh, I got the letter." He's like, "Oh, I'll wait till you get here to read it." You know. So I hang up with him, and I just immediately start cracking up. If this kid is this dude, this is gonna be hilarious. Right? So I'm driving. I'm just, you know, we have a really fun family. So I'm thinking of like, okay, what I'm gonna do funny if it is or whatever. So we get there, and I come in the door laughing, and then so we sitting there. So he's like, "Here we go." So he opens the letter, and he started reading it, and then, like I said, you kind of have to deduce like what it actually means. Yeah. So it's like he's the so it's like he's the dad. I was like, I knew it. I knew it was my father. So it kind of did a Maury Povich kind of deal. So it's like, I knew it. I knew he was your daddy, whatever. So we just had a laugh, and this is what I thought. Honestly, is not to go into a long story, but he and I went on different paths. Like up until we finished high school, yes, we were not only twins, we was probably the same person. We thought alike and just everything. And then we took different paths. We both went in the military, in the army, but I went in the regular army, he went in the reserve. So that means he went to training in school and came back home to where I went to training in school and then off to my next duty station. So that's when the big difference came. Because your mindset I came back, I was the same person because I had to really play soldier 1 weekend out of the month and 2 weeks out of the year. You know, where it was like every day for me, like every day. Right. So hence that's where we kind of went on different paths and stuff. So
So by the time this happened, he was out of the military. We was 36.
yeah.
And we were.
Yeah, so by the time this happened, so when I got out of the Army and started observing how the differences in us and how he was compared to how I'm like, so I'm looking at him in a totally different way, So when my hope was now that he has a kid, maybe all that'll change. Because he was single, he was single, working for the airlines, doing da-da-da-da and all this. So I'm thinking, okay, now he got a kid. Now all that has to change. You know what I'm saying? No, maybe he'd be a little more responsible and this is what I'm thinking. And it did somewhat, not to the, and not that he had to please me or anything, but not to what I thought it should have been or was going to be or whatever. But yeah.
But 36 having your first kid, like that's a learning experience.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It is.
Yeah.
It changed because,
especially being a single father.
Yeah, and he was out of town, and I think back on it, and I don't even want to touch on it, but I wanted him to be there. Like, this is my kid, my first kid. So I wanted him to be there, and then he was like, he didn't want to go, and I was like, huh?
You mean like when you?
When I was go see him the first time.
Right.
At first he said he didn't want to go, and I'm thinking to myself, how do you not want to go? Right. So I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna sit back. I asked him about it. I'm like, dude, I want you to be there. This is my kid. I want you to. So he was like, he think from a different perspective. He was like, oh, okay, all right. Okay. So he went. Me, him, and one of my older brothers went, and it was like,
I gotta find that video. I gotta look for that.
There's a video of it. We gotta find it.
It was.
But when I tell you that it was emotional. To see him crawling on the floor, and I kid you not, he knew when I first picked him up. He was at Chuck E. Cheese, and I picked him up, and he looked at me like, "Where you been?" And I was like, "Whoa!" And he knew the difference between between me and him,
because So he picks him up and he's like I say, takes to him right away or whatever. He's walking around with him. So he comes my way, and he's a kid, so you're thinking, he wasn't maybe look like
he wasn't a year old yet.
Yeah, maybe he'll look like, wait a minute, something like that. But I was like, and he's like, he wouldn't go. He wouldn't come to me, and I'm like,
that's amazing.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
And so all I can think of is, man, like, I've had him, full custody of him since he was 2.5 years old. I hired a lawyer, tried to get full custody. They gave us joint custody because he was only 2 at the time of the court hearing. And we were supposed to keep him every 2 months. So she had her first 2 months. She brought him to me, and that was it. I've had him ever since he's 14. I've had him since he was 2.5. And all I just thought to myself is just be there for him. So I got some advice from my nephew. He said, all you can do for your kids is just try to give them the opportunity. Right? And that's it. That's the best you can do, is give them an opportunity and as much knowledge as you can. Wow. So thinking back on it and not having nobody to teach you that, and you kind of have to learn it on your own, it is really tough. Really tough.
All right, so Uncle Ronnie, so you don't have no kids, right?
No.
Or not that you know of.
I was going to say that, but I didn't want to put that out in the universe. But no, I don't. And
so just growing up as a man, period, not even as a father, but how do you think it affected you just growing up being a man?
I can think back on it now and possibly think that it's some things that I learned through the military and that a father probably could have talked to me about way back when. So now I'm thinking about like, marriage and having kids and all that kind of stuff, and I go, man, like that never crossed my mind. It never really
What,
crossed
having
my
kids
mind.
or what?
Having kids or being married or any of that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because I look back, I haven't had a lot of relationships, especially long-term relationships, because I had a low tolerance. My tolerance level was like low. Like if you got on my nerves, I was like, yeah, I'm not calling it back.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, but when I think about the longer relationships that I had, it always seemed to be something that interrupted it. Like when I was in the military, my first long relationship, um, I ended up going to another place, and she had just got there and stuff, and
right.
So I ended up that ended that relationship. Okay. Then I was in the next place I went to. It's in a pretty long relationship, and then same thing. I ended up leaving, and then that ended that relationship.
Okay.
So so the one thing that a good friend of mine told me, because like I said, I had this low tolerance level. So I was talking to him one day, and he said, listen, man, it's always gonna be something. You're not gonna find that perfect woman that fits everything you want. Say it's always gonna be something, because I remember he was in a relationship and he had a kid, and he ended up getting married and staying. You know what I'm saying? And I remember we would talk about his early part of his relationship with her, and he didn't really care for her too much. So he just thought, man, this chick is just blah, blah, blah. But he had a kid and he matured, and the one thing he told me that stuck with me, that actually led to the longest relationship I ever had with who, and he said it's always gonna be something. Like you're not gonna find that person that's perfect, so you have to decide, like, is this something I can deal with or not? And then which I relate to you, in the future and stuff. But so once he told me that, it was right at the beginning of our relationship, I was at that point to where I was like, yeah, I'm done talking. And then I thought about what he said, and I was like, okay, is this something I can deal with or get over or whatever? And the answer was like, okay, I can let that go. Okay. You know what I'm saying? And then hence, it was like a 5-year relationship and stuff. So when I look back on it, I don't think it affected me in a way that maybe I would have matured earlier and knew those things earlier. But then again, it was the army that it was the situation that actually helped me grow, as opposed to, because quite honestly, we were so stubborn and hard-headed at the time. It wasn't until later on we looked at people in our lives that helped, like Miss Jackson, Miss Addie B. Jackson, both my high school English teacher.
Shout out to Miss Jackson.
Yeah, Miss Jackson. God rest her soul. She passed away, but
without that lady, without her, I would not have graduated high school.
Because she would. Now, mind you, it affected him in a way that changed him. But piggybacking off of that, I look back on it and I was like, man, that's what I want to be. I want to be somebody that makes a difference in somebody's life. And you just talk, and she just talked to us and talked to us and talked to us. And
I tell you what it was. It was there was a situation in high school involving the basketball team, and I was acting a fool, and I didn't know who she was. She came up to me and was like, "Are you Donald?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Could I talk to you?" I was like, "I don't know who this lady is, but she about to get it." So she sat me down and talked to me, and the only thing I could think of is she was the first person that showed me a person could care about you and not know who you are. And it changed me, because if she wouldn't have got to me, I was so upset that I probably wouldn't have played basketball, which then I wouldn't have to keep my grades up, and who knows what would have happened after that. But that lady, she showed me that people who don't know you can truly care about you, and it changed my life.
Yeah. So let's get into our last question then. So, did growing up without a father make y'all look at y'all mother, my granny, like with admiration? You know, because like once we get older, and we able to look back on things, like did that make you think like, man, you know, like did it upset you that, you know, y'all father wasn't there, or that
Good
she didn't
question.
do nothing to have y'all father be there, or did it make you look at her more with admiration, like, man, this what she was able to do despite my father not being there?
Good question. Both actually. Both, because at that time, of course, like we said, we didn't trip off of it. Mom worked hard, and we had to. I don't say difficult, but we were difficult children, being the last of 9 kids. So we got away with a lot, and we had bad attitudes and stuff. So we had this relationship with our mom where we, yelled at her and stuff like that. And then again, at that point, graduated high school, had no clue what we were going to do. I decided I was going in the military. And then last minute, he decided he was going in, but he's like, I'm going to reserve. So the day I joined the military and I went in, I started sending my mom $100 a month out of my check.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I thought of it as, send my mom, why not? You know what I'm saying? Send my mom $100.
Now, is that something you did on your own or something that she asked?
Oh, I did on my own.
Okay.
Like, as soon as I joined, I'm like, send my mom $100 allotment. And it just went to her automatically every month.
Okay.
Out of my check. And so I honestly, I'm thinking like, I know it's gonna help my mom, you know what I'm saying? But as and mind you, I was in the army for like almost 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
2 months short shy of 5 years. So afterwards, when she tell you how much she appreciated,
Mm-hmm.
and you look at it and you go, man, like that's kind of payback for my mom. You keep paying her back and stuff. So why I say it's both is because one of our uncles was real good friends with our dad.
Mm-hmm.
Our Uncle Richard, God rest his soul. He was real good friends with our dad.
Mm-hmm.
So when he was staying with my mom for a time before he passed away, he gave us some insight into my mom's relationship with him. Okay. So we found out that he had, now mind you, it was 9 of us, mm-hmm. And us two he actually asked my mom to marry him.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. So he asked that, and we was like, wow, So that's when we really started contemplating, like,
how our lives.
Yeah, like how, like, man, you know what I'm saying?
And how long ago was that y'all found that out?
3 years.
That we found out?
Yeah.
Well, it was longer than that. Yeah, it was a long time ago. It was probably at least.
Well, he passed in 2018, right? Or has it been longer than that?
Honestly, I don't remember. I know it was on Mom's birthday, and she probably had about 3 birthdays since then.
Yeah, so it might have been about 5.
But I mean, that was when he passed, but
right.
At least we found out before.
So about 5 years ago,
okay.
That's when he he told us how he was good at baseball, and
y'all dad was good at baseball.
Yeah, like I think he was in a Dodgers farm system or something.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was the Dodgers or the Mets, and so that's point, because nobody in our family had ever told us anything about him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I take that back. So my older siblings told us they didn't like me. So I mean, once they told us that, we was like, oh well, maybe he was a knucklehead, So now as far as me, like when I thought back, it's both admirers, because you go, wow, she raised 9 kids and
mm-hmm.
Worked hard and
but
all this stuff.
For me, it always goes back to basketball. Like, I played 5 years in a row, and I have to tell you, my mom literally did not attend one game I ever played. Not one, right? So when I think back on that, I'm like, wow, what was up with that? And it didn't like affect me to where at least I know, you know what I'm saying? But
Probably affect you more now than then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because from my perspective, it did bother him. Like it bothered him because when we talked about it, and just my take on it was, it bothered him. And he looked back on it and he kind of, was kind of mad at my mom about that. Like, man, she ain't never come to my games. Matter of fact, I think if I remember correctly, I remember us having kind of a deep conversation that probably got heated, and he said it. So that's what made me think that bothered him, And when you, like I said, when you look at the broad scope of it, she worked hard. She worked every day. Food, and all these things my mom did. You know what I'm saying? I mean, she had 9 kids.
Right.
Not only that, she had 3 sets of twins.
Right.
So now you got 3 extra kids.
Right. Because I got 3 kids, and my God, I can't imagine 4, let alone 9.
But you got like the older 6. No, yeah. Well, so when we did the math, the last set of twins before us, our oldest sister was like 11, I think, when they were born.
The oldest.
The oldest was
of the
born.
9.
Of the 9, she was like about 11 when they were born. So you have to imagine 11 down to newborn, 7 kids.
Wow.
Because there's a 6-year gap in between us and the next oldest twins. There's a 6-year gap. So, then the oldest, she's like 16, 17 at that time. So when we were born. So now she's kind of taking care of us.
Okay.
As far back as we can. I remember my oldest sister took us to kindergarten. That's probably my earliest memory is her taking us to kindergarten. Do you remember that?
Not specifically.
I remember her. I vividly remember us walking down because we lived on Dodia, which was like 2 blocks from it. And I remember walking down the street. I remember going up the steps. We went to the office. They told us what room we were in. I remember the room. I guess it was
Miss Mays.
Miss Mays. I remember it was dark, and so it was head down time. They called it, wasn't it? And I swear to you, I think I got in trouble the first day. First day of kindergarten, I think I got in trouble from talking to kids I don't even know, right? But
So
yeah.
you spoke on the I guess the negative side of it, but what about the positive side of it? Since you said it's both as well.
Well, now I think about how being a parent now and being a single parent, and how I watched your last episode, and it made me think wow, why didn't I think of that? And I'll tell you what it is. So when I had him, all I could think was I got to get him away from his mom. I do not want him growing up she had 2 other kids. I do not want to see him grow up like that. So I did my best to get him. When you were talking about how you was a single dad and you thought to yourself, I got to get my kids a stepmom. Now, my criteria of, what, and I thought to myself, my thinking was, I don't want to bring no chick around my kid because if she can't get on my kid, she out the door.
Okay.
And from the time he was in kindergarten, I don't think he got in trouble the first day, but he was a handful. I was getting calls on him. And all I can think about was, wow, this dude is me when I was in school. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, I ain't having that.
And believe you me, my mom let him know it
every chance she got. Right?
Every chance he got. He was bad. Well, and he get a whooping. Well, darn it, you was bad. As bad as you was, you should. I was like, I'll say that's right. And he ain't gonna be like I was. So and mind you, see, hence the difference in he and I at that point, because
I used to tell him. Now, mind you, I didn't know a lot about his son's mom. I didn't know a lot about her background and everything. The little I did know, I knew it was jacked up. But I would tell him, I say, listen, dude, you need to get his mom in his life. Like, I don't know how you do it or what, dude. Like, you need to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever you can do. Now, if you can't be with her, you're gonna try to have her around. You know what I'm saying? And as he got older, and he has a great affection for his mom, even though he didn't spend a lot of time around his mom. He has a great affection for his mom, and hence that would have made a difference in him. So, you know what I'm saying? That I feel like, not that we would, but
so I feel like, like you said, I spoke about it on the last episode, and I wasn't necessarily thinking like, man, I need to get my kids' mom involved in their lives. I was just thinking I need to get them a mother.
Right.
Because I understood as a man that there was just certain things I would not be able to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I knew, I wouldn't be able to give them that super affectionate side, you know what I mean? Because that's not how I was. And I knew that they needed that. You know what I mean? And that really came from my mama. Like, my mama wasn't an affectionate person at all, but she was very loving. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Right.
Did stuff with us, and she didn't say it a lot, but we knew she loved us to death. You know what I mean? And I just wanted that for my kids, and I think it's important for kids to have. I think it's essential for kids to have both sides.
This and from what he just said about his, you have to know, and my son knows that I tried. I tried to conversate with her and be cool with her and squash everything that was before that to have a relationship with her. But she needed to understand that anything involving him, you fully involved. I said, but we're not friends. You can't call me to chit chat. And she just seemed like, well, if I can't do that, then I'm not calling.
Why couldn't she do that?
Because we weren't friends. I didn't want to hear about her.
No, what I'm saying is, I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, but what I'm saying is, why didn't you want y'all to be friends?
Without getting into the details about her, I'll just tell you one thing. She is a pathological liar.
Okay.
And the one thing is at the top of my list that I do not tolerate is lying about things that you absolutely do not have to. So that was the thing that like, hey, we can talk about him because he's concerning you, but if she has the concept that we're friends, now I gotta hear all this other nonsense that
right.
Right, and like I said, hence the when he mentioned the key word was tolerance. You know what I'm saying? And to this day, he kind of has that. He doesn't have a tolerance for, and I think you just have to learn. Like, he's looking at it from that point of view of she's getting on my nerves, or. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you're looking at it from that point of view.
Yes.
Whereas it shouldn't have been about you. It should have been about your kid. You know what I'm saying?
Which is why I asked it. Because, so let me ask you this: if you could have been friends with her, would you have chosen to be? Like, if it wasn't for the lying aspect of it. Like,
oh, absolutely. I tell you, like. Even getting past that, I took him up there to visit her. This was 2015. I took him up there for a weekend, and one summer I'm like, hey, I couldn't. This is the one thing you have to understand. I didn't know who she was with, and the only thing I thought about is I don't know the type of people she hang around. And I just did not feel safe with him being up there.
Okay.
I did not, because
Okay.
she had been to jail, right? She had married some guy who got her into something that got her put in jail, right?
Okay.
So she had a kid by him. I don't know this dude.
Right.
You know, so, and you know how we think. You know
But it
how
wasn't about the dude. It was about his safety.
Yeah, right. It was
Right.
about his. I'm like, could I even imagine this dude doing something to my kid? You know, what? You know what I'm saying? What am I gonna do? So, and what really cut it off to me was this. I was gonna have him start spending the summer with her. He was gonna go up there for 2 months, right? To the summer break. And I just told him, I said, listen, man, you know, if things ain't going right, you ain't comfortable, call me. She came to get him.
And when you say go up there, where is?
Wisconsin.
Okay.
So she lives in Wisconsin, right? So, which I used to drive up there 2 weeks out of the every other month or whatever to get him when he was a baby. So anyway, when she came to get him, he had a bad scrape on his leg that it was healing because you know I was taking care of it, bandaged, clean bandages, ointment, you know, so it wouldn't leave a scar. So I explained to her, listen, he has the scar, it's almost healed. You need to take care of it until it's fully healed. So she's like, okay, I got some ointment, I'll do it. I said, okay, fine. So he went up there, he was up there a month, he called me, he was like, I'm ready to come home. I was like, what's going on? He's like, it's just, I'm not feeling comfortable, whatever. I said, I'm on my way. I went up there to get him. She wasn't there. I pick him up. The guy she's messing with at the time, you know, meets me up and gives his stuff, and I pack the car. As soon as he gets in the car, first thing I say is, let me see your leg, right? He pulls his pants leg up. The area is black. The area is black. So I immediately pull over at the corner. I call her. I'm like, I thought I asked you to take care of this sore on his leg. Well, and this is what she told me. She said, I told him to put ointment on it. And I was like, what do you mean you told him? She was like, ask so-and-so, ask the other kids. I told him to put it on there, and he's so hard-headed. And I was like, okay. So I drove back to Wisconsin.
But here's the thing. So he's getting into a lot of the later on stuff. Like initially, like when he found out he was his kid, and then the whole custody thing. And like you said, he had him since he was 2.5 years old. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of those things he's speaking of came well after. So by the time he's 2.5, and then they're trading off money, like he said, she had him for the first 2 months, dropped him off to him, and that was it. Like because it was her duty to come and get him.
Right.
And she's like, so I think it was excuse, and then it was just, okay, well, he just stay there. So at that point, right, that was the point where his tolerance level was low. You know, he's kind of fed up with just her and how she was and all this. So
No, back up. From that point, like when she wasn't coming to get him, I was still talking to her, and she was, you know what I'm saying? We were still conversating. Everything was. She went to jail. Like by the time he was 5, she went to jail. And when he was acting up in school, I took her we went to see a psychologist. And she told me, hey, he might be missing a relationship with his mother.
wow.
So I called the jail, made arrangements to take him up there to see her. Right? Took him up there to see her. They made an exception for him to be able to see her that whole weekend, for the Saturday and the Sunday. You know, so just from the child psychologist telling me, that's when my mindset changed to say, okay, he needs his mother in his life, right? So that's when I opened up and was conversating back and forth and you know what I'm saying, and talking to her and stuff, and you know, her number would change every 2 months. She got a different number. I can't get in touch with her. You know what I'm saying? I had to like call her parents or her stepmother to try to find a number for her. So she made no effort whatsoever to keep in touch with him.
Right.
So don't think that it was me going, I'm
right.
not.
I didn't want to give that impression that it was. But here's the thing, and this is a life lesson for everyone. So in any given situation, right? Any given situation, there you got your right and you got your wrong. And this is just, I might need to coin this phrase after this, but if being right still causes chaos, being right ain't worth nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because you can be right all you want to, but if it continues to cause chaos, you can't sit back and go, well, I'm right. You know what I'm saying? And that's because, and that's because when any situation happens, okay, you're right, but then you have to think, okay, so how could I have handled that situation better? Because maybe I didn't explain it in the right. Maybe my tone was different. I remember having a conversation with this chick that I had just met her and hadn't spent a lot of time with her, and we had this long conversation where she was telling me about my tone. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you? I'm thinking you barely know me, but she was talking about, you know, your tone you use, and I'm like, whatever. Then after that, you know, you think about it, and I was like, I know what she means. Like, it's all about how you come to a person, how you know, what you say and how you say it, and all that. So when he explaining this stuff, listen, if you feel like you're the smarter person and you're the better person in a situation, then a lot of the responsibility, and this is just my view, but a lot of the responsibility falls on you to try to get that situation to where you want it to be. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so let's get past her. Okay, so let's take her.
I have to, because I like for people to know what my mindset is, because what he's saying is absolutely right. If you right and it's causing chaos, then it's not worth being right. I have to quickly go through the reason why I filed for full custody of him, right? And
the relationship don't have to do that because, well, you know what I'm saying? Because
okay, so I'll just say this. If I tell a story about why I filed for custody of him, people will understand, and hopefully you guys would understand why I felt like I always feared for his safety with her. So like seriously, like you hear about these people doing stuff to kids.
Understandable, but and then like, because I remember talking to you one time about trying to get her to move down here. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get her to if she move her close, because Wisconsin, wow, you know, get her to move closer or down here and do whatever you have. Like at least she's going to be here, and now you're in a little more control of how things are. You know, not to say it would have worked or whatever, but that was definitely an option to feel like, well, listen, I'm concerned for his safety. If I get you closer, and now I'm like 5 minutes away or whatever, you know, now I can feel a little more comfortable. So a little more comfortable.
Wait. Let's get past her.
Okay.
Let's get past her. Let's take her out the picture. All right. So, like you said, you realize that a relationship, even a cordial relationship between y'all, wasn't really gonna work. So, past her, did you ever think of, like, not that he needed his mother, but just that he needed a mother?
I did not. And I guess part of the reason of that is the aunts that he have. I mean, not the aunts, but, you know, my brothers, my sisters, and my mom. You know what I'm saying? My mom's been there. So that's why it's different to see him, for him to see a relationship with a woman, as opposed to it's your grandmother. You know what I'm saying? So, and he spent time with his step grandmother and stuff like that. So I did, and when you said that on the last show was the first time that I even thought to myself, wow, why didn't I think of that? Why does that? Because I was just thinking a whole different way about it.
All right. So, in summation, it was hard growing up without a father.
I wouldn't say it was hard growing up, because like I said, looking back on it, our childhood was, we had cousins around and we spent times at her boys club, so it wasn't hard at all. Right. Now when you look back on it, you think how things would have been different.
Okay.
So it wasn't hard for us growing up without a father,
because we never thought about it. We never really thought about it, and I learned to appreciate that amongst. One of our nieces, she was kind of in the same boat when she grew up without a father, but once she met her father, she wanted a relationship with her father. You know what I'm saying? And she seeked that out and everything. So, and I just wasn't built that way. Like,
and it puzzles us right now today, right? It puzzles us like the time we met him. Now that we think about it, it's like, wow, why didn't? And also we thought to ourselves, well, why didn't he come and, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, so y'all say that he's passed away now, right?
Yes.
So do y'all have any regrets about not pursuing some kind of relationship?
I do not have a regret. I don't have a regret because, like I said, I always thought to myself, why was it on us? He was the adult. You know what I'm saying?
I'm saying, like, even once y'all became adults, because when did he pass away?
6.
It's been a little while. Because it was definitely before Uncle Richard.
Probably about 8 years ago.
About 8 years ago. And how old are y'all now?
50.
50.
Be 51 come April.
So say like y'all was like 40. So,
yes,
between the time, y'all became adults and, like, y'all never like wanted to.
That's what I'm saying, man. I honestly did not think about it until we got word that he had passed. When that was said, I literally hadn't thought about him for a long time before that. So when I heard that he's passed, my first thought was like, whoa, I never got a chance to know.
So, not thinking about him, like you said, like y'all never even thought about him. Do y'all feel like that was a good thing, or it helped y'all to not think about him, or do y'all wish y'all thought about him more?
I don't know if it was a good thing, but.
And well, when I say a good thing, I mean as far as like, because if you're not thinking about him, then you're not sad about him not being there.
Right.
You know what I mean? So do you feel like it was a benefit basically that you didn't think about him, or?
That's the thing. I don't contemplate that. Like now that you're asking it, I can try to.
Yeah.
But I didn't contemplate whether it. So let's fast forward a little bit. We ended up finding out that some people that we know, like there's a guy that we knew, that his wife is actually some kid's father.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A guy that we've been on for a good little while, find out that his wife is some kid father. So we're like, wow. So that kind of sparked an interest in like, well, let's see if we can find out something. Like, we don't know.
Was this before or after he passed?
After.
Okay.
Well after. But this was just about a couple of years ago that we found that out. So now we're like, because we don't know if he had kids or any of that, So now we're like, oh man, now we can ask them some questions. So the funny thing is because her father is like his second cousin.
First cousin.
I don't know his first cousin.
I think it's first cousin.
Well, whatever he is to him,
he knew our father.
but he
our
didn't
father-
know a lot about him.
Our father was older than him, and this is
Yeah.
how I know he was a first cousin, because he always talked about how our father was the older cousin, and and he used to actually go to some of his like high school games when he was a kid.
Baseball games, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was,
Yeah.
but the weird thing was, like, he didn't know a lot about him.
Yeah. And that's what
he lived in somewhere in Illinois,
Mm.
and that's where he passed away. And
yeah, we didn't see him much.
they wasn't sure if he had. He wasn't sure if he had
any other
kid. I think he had
think
a
he had
son.
one.
He might have had another son. And I'm like,
So now we back to square one, to where we was like, well, he don't know nothing, so there you go.
yeah, that's it.
So do y'all have any interest to find out anything about him now?
If there was somebody that knew something about him,
Right.
yeah, we'll definitely like to ask questions
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
we were sent like a picture of him, so we have a picture of him. I don't know how old he was in the picture, and looking at the picture, I guess he kind of looked more like me, because, like we said, his face was always more narrow, and which I would bring up a crazy question. It really makes it seem like he was, because I'm the oldest by 4 minutes according to the birth certificate.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think about it, it seems like he came out first because his head is narrow.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think the first kid coming
Right.
out would, and then I come out, you know what I'm saying?
And we kind of thought about this, and it's kind of funny, because we actually thought, like, hell, we could have been mixed up as kids when we were babies. I mean, because, like, we really, like I said, we really looked a lot alike.
Yeah.
To where, I mean, even to this day, some people think, like, we tell them, no, we're not identical. What you mean? Then you have to explain the difference in identical and fraternal twins.
Right. And we
You
tell them we got different blood types, and they go,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So that this is funny that.
Okay.
Man.
So y'all said it wasn't hard because y'all didn't really think about it. Okay. Y'all said as far as y'all feelings towards y'all mom, my granny, they were kind of mixed. You know, some admiration, some, you know, maybe resentment or regret a little bit. You know,
I never did. I can understand it a little bit, but I never did. I never really thought like, oh man, like when I found out that our dad asked her to marry him, that's when I thought like, man, how things would have been different, or why did she da. So maybe a little resent, but as far as I'm concerned, man, like my mom did the best she could. I love her for it. I do anything.
shout out to Granny.
Yeah, I do anything for her and stuff. And
One of the things I asked a lot of friends of mine, because I've heard stories about people's father, and I had a long conversation with a friend of mine, and he was telling me like how horrible he thought his father was. And I finally asked him, I was like, let me ask you something. Would you have wanted to have a father that you have, or not have a father? And he's like, wow, that's a good question. He's thought about it. He's like, well, I would rather have the father that I had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because at least it gives you something.
Yeah.
You know, and you mentioned like you're growing up with your stepfather, it made you go, I don't want to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And even if that what it comes out to, and a lot of time, I mean, a lot of parents, man, because I got a friend of mine, he's a great parent, and he's also lucky. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's what it is. You could be a great parent, and you could just have a kid that, not saying it's a bad kid, but
don't get it. Don't get it.
You know, and hopefully they get it before it's too late. You know, but just having a father figure around, whether good or bad, sometimes can help you, because you're either gonna turn out like him, or
you gonna know how not to be.
Yeah.
So he either go teach you how to be or how not to be.
Or how not to be.
So in my case, like, he kind of taught me how not to be.
How not to be.
Right. All right. So I appreciate y'all coming on the show. This was good, therapeutic, y'all. So this is just.
Okay, I want to give a shout out to, because like when you asked me about being a father, now I've had my nieces and nephews, including you, who told me like that I've been like a father figure growing up. And when Father's Day come around, I get shout outs from some of my nieces and nephews, and that's something that I appreciate. So y'all know that I definitely appreciate that, because that's all one thing I learned is, listen, you can influence anybody in your lifetime. I'm in now, the job I'm in now, I'm around a lot of kids and stuff, and as much as you can influence anybody, whether they family or strangers, like Donnie said, when you learn that, listen, somebody can care about you that don't even know you,
right,
that means a lot. So shout out to all my nieces and nephews that I inspired, or that I showed the right way to do anything. So
all right, good deal. Appreciate it, huh? So like I say, this has been another good interview, y'all. There'll be more to come. Appreciate y'all coming on. We'll probably have them on again one day. Maybe talking sports or something, because we argue about sports all the time, y'all.
check out the Duke train. Duke train. It's been the COVID that shut it down for a minute, but we have to pump up the Duke train again.
All right. So until next time, y'all. See y'all later.
In-house production.